So, on the Tower Defense Simulator wiki, I came across this post, and it is a image of someone from Discord saying that you need at least 1,000 wins to get to General 3. Now, to clarify, General 3 is the last rank in the PvP season currently right now. You need 3,000 ELO to get that. As of currently right now, I have 358 ELO, and this is after 20 wins and 5 losses. So, on that generalized mathematics, it looks kind of similar. I just need 10 times the amount of wins that I have currently to get General 3, so it kind of does look like I need about 200 or so wins to actually get General 3, which is far below the 1,000 wins that that person who posted that message on Discord claimed. Now, it's because that when that person made that message, back when the developers hadn't fixed ELO, it sort of was the case where you're gaining a little amount of ELO every single time. So, it actually might have been the case where you have needed 1,000 wins to actually get General 3. However, it does look like this has been significantly reduced to the point where you might need about 200 or so wins. However, that is the earning rate that I have right now. However, do bear in mind that that's because I have a relatively high-ish win percentage. A win percentage of about 80% is actually quite high. I mean, Shane has a win percentage of about 85-90% because he's playing with me, but I played some games with random people, and then random people are just random, obviously. There is a chance with random people that you'll lose the game, like they end up quitting, or they end up using like the scout and sniper, which I would quit, honestly. But in general, if you keep on winning games, you are looking at about 200 wins in PvP ranked to actually get that. However, that's assuming that earning rates will be the same from General 1 all the way to Sergeant 3 or General 3. This, I think, is unlikely to be the case, because sometimes you earn like 30 ELO, and then sometimes you earn like 10 ELO per game, and this is because it depends on the ELO of the other players that you're playing against. In some circumstances, if I was playing, me and Shane, we have about 350 ELO. If we were to be playing against someone with 2 ELO, for example, or like 2 players with 2 ELO, that means that the amount of ELO that we will get by beating them would be extremely low. I'm looking at about 10, maybe 12 ELO. Now, obviously, we don't know that, apart from the fact that we can actually check their cars, and I do believe in the case where I played against someone with 2 wins, 1 loss, and then someone with 0 wins and 0 losses, which means that they are basically level 0, rank 0, sorry, it means that we earned like 13 ELO, something really small. And obviously, Shane being a higher ELO than me means that he actually earns less ELO than me. So, for example, in games where I earned 16 ELO, he would only earn 15 ELO. And this is not an error in any way whatsoever. It is purely because the higher ELO that you have, the less ELO that you get per game. This is just the way that how ELO works. So it's the same that how ELO works in chess, for example. If someone in chess was like a grandmaster, for example, like 2,500 ELO or something, and they were to beat someone with only 600 ELO, they might not earn any ELO, or like maybe 1 or 2 ELO per game against like level 600s or so in ELO chess. In any case, saying that there's going to be 200 wins to get to General 3 is sort of wrong. It actually is likely to be higher. In my mind, it's going to be at least 500 wins, depending on the type of people that you play. Because let's be real, PvP mode is just sort of random, and you might get randomly paired with people who aren't that good, which isn't necessarily a good thing. I mean, yes, you're basically guaranteed to win, and with the new ELO scores, it means that if you win, you're actually unlikely to lose ELO. I've not seen any reports of that yet. But it does mean that in that game, even if that game lasts 30 minutes or even 2 minutes, you're not earning a lot of ELO. So towards like the end of this, like General 3, I'm expecting some people to be earning like 1 or 2 ELO per game. And then if they were to lose the game, they would lose a massive amount of ELO. Meaning that actually, looking at the original person's statement of 1,000 wins to get General 3, actually might not be far off. So if you were to include losses, for example, the amount of losses that you get doesn't equate to the wins that you get for ELO. So for example, in a match where I would have earned 20 ELO, for example, I probably would have lost like 11 or 12 ELO if I had lost the game. So in that sense, you're looking at about 2 losses is equal to a win in terms of equilibrium, in terms of elo. However, that's just a generalization. Not entirely sure if that's the case, especially if your win is against weak opponents and your loss is also against very weak opponents. In any case, in a match, any amount of elo that you get from your opponents, they won't lose as much. So their elo is being added to, I guess, the economy. So in about, 90 days time, when it comes to the season, towards the end of it, I expect some people to be like General 3 and had to have all the rewards. And then by like next week or something, I expect some people to be like Lieutenant or even Sergeants maybe. And I guess it's fair enough why this is 90 days. It's giving the community time to actually inject elo into the game's economy, to the point where, if you're winning games consistently, you might end up getting General 3 quite easily. However, that being said, I really doubt it, especially towards these Fallen Arena matches. You might be paired with people who are only in Fallen Arena matches, meaning that to get from Major 1 to General 3, which is a leap of 1,200 elo, it's going to be quite difficult, I think. Again, it's the reason why I don't particularly like these rewards being locked behind ranks. Now, I don't particularly mind the fact that elo is being used to rank players here, but I don't think it should be attached. The rewards should be attached to your elo rank. I think it should just be attached to the amount of wins and the amount of losses that you have. Now, you may argue that this is the same as elo, except not really. So if the amount of wins determines the amount of rewards that you have, I think that's better. So for example, you can have a limit of like 200 wins to get to General 3, for example, instead of the 3,000 elo that you have. But also, it wouldn't punish players if they were to randomly use PvP mode, because I'd imagine people who, like friends, for example, 2 friends, like me and Shane, they're more likely to get elo compared to 2 random people who have just joined ranked matches. And I've seen this in the majority of players, people with like 17 wins, for example, but they also have like 15 losses. They're still like General 1. Whereas me, I'm what? I don't know, I have like 20 wins and 5 losses. That means I'm Private 3, just about. I mean, currently the rewards are glitched because I have like Private 3, but I don't have these rewards. I don't have 200 XP and good luck have fun sticker. So there's some weirdness around that, but depending on the type of matches that you play, you might only be General 2 with my rank, or the wins and losses I have. You might be Private 2, depending on the type of games that you play. So like all of the games that you play may be against far significantly weaker opponents, whereas if you keep winning games with much stronger opponents, then perhaps maybe you get like Sergeant 1, for example. There's every chance. And it's not like you can manipulate the odds in ranked PvP mode to like farm wins, for example. You can't have like me and Mentin here. We can't go in PvP casual and then ranked, sorry, and then face off each other, and then he constantly loses and I constantly win. No, you have to go through matchmaking. And sure, I guess there's a probability that sometimes you might get the same person over and over again. However, in most cases, the people that you are paired against are going to be random. So there's no way of like manipulating them to actually let you win unless they quit. Which, I mean, I guess that means that you can win. Yeah, so this is what PvP can devolve into. You can have many brutes on the battlefield, and then it just devolves into whatever the hell this is. And I can't lie, this is this is like the closest match I've ever had in like PvP mode. I can't lie. God, I'm lagging so bad. This is... Oh, the other person's left the server. You can't have... It turns out you can't have negative... economy. Damn. So as me and Mentin played around with PvP mode, as you just saw, we figured out that even though I was Private 3 and he was Private 2, we were still being paired up with people who were unranked or even like Private 1. And we found that we got much less elo against those people compared to those that were like Private 3, for example, like the previous game. The previous game that we did, as you saw, we got 25 elo. I got 25 elo. Mentin actually got 31 elo because Mentin is a lower elo score than me. So conversely, he would gain more elo. However, it's the case where you're not separated. So, for example, me being a Private 3, playing against unranked people is a dream, but even then, I'm earning like, what, 10 or 11 elo, which, if you look at my rank, 388, that means that I would need to beat unranked people about 12, 13 times to even rank up. And you can really see that, compared to that, to get to General 3, if the trend were to continue, I would need to play like 300 games or so. And that's me being a Private 3 versus like unranked people. If I was General 3 versus unranked people, I don't think I'll be earning any elo, and maybe 1 at maximum. So I can totally see why some people are saying that you might need to earn like 1,000 wins, for example, to actually get General 3. And in fact, I'd probably say you probably need something close to that, depending on the amount of losses that you have. Like, personally, I think it's about 500 wins to like 0 losses to actually get General 3. But even in that case, I'd assume it would be much easier later on when people start getting ELO. And as Mentin probably told me, the best way that you could probably do this is probably get, like, once someone has a General 3 rank, possibly when it comes to those matches, you might get ranked up to like a Fallen match or a Fallen Arena match. You could wait for a General 3 to be paired with you in the lobby, and then you could possibly do that. Although I don't know if they separate out Fallen Arena games or Fallen Arena ranked to those that are Molten Arena, and I don't know what happens if you were to join a friend. If your friend was like General 3 and you were to join them in the same party, would that mean that you are automatically bumped up to a General 3 match? And in that case, if you win, does that mean you get a load of ELO? Could that be the strategy of getting General 3? Just piggy banking off someone who is a higher rank than you? Who knows?